everyone, and welcome to Samsung Ads Connected. I'm Minai Bui and I lead product marketing for Europe and Asia Pacific. And I am delighted to be joined by Paul Gubbins, who is the VP of CTV Strategy for Publica. Paul is likely a familiar face for a lot of you. He is a thought leader, an industry veteran, and an all-round programmatic and CTV expert. So I'm really excited to be spending some time with Paul today to learn more about how the CTV landscape's been evolving, whether or not it's been living up to the hype. We'll talk a little bit around AVOD and FAST in Europe and learn about the implications for advertisers and agencies. So, hello Paul, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Good to do this in person.
I know, in this lovely surrounding that you have in King's Cross.
Oh, very, very nice.
Very slick.
So before we start, I thought we could take a step back, and I know there's a lot of confusion in the market sometimes around what CTV is.
Yeah.
So can you help us by just defining what CTV is to you so we can just level set?
I think there's lots of different interpretations and the answer will probably differ depending on who you ask. But my own personal interpretation of that question is, it's a television that's connected to the internet. That for me is a CTV. Now on that television, there are apps that stream content, and that is sometimes referred to as OTT. So a TV that's connected to the IP via the home internet.
Amazing. Noted for next time. I'll know that. You've done this before. So Paul, you've been with Publica for over a year now. When you embarked on your CTV journey, did you expect CTV advertising to be where it is now? And were there any surprises along the way?
Good question. So I looked at my own TV viewing habits and the habits of my friends and family, and it was apparent to me that I was certainly spending more time on streaming services, be it SVOD or ad-supported services. So I genuinely thought that we would be where we were, or where we are today. Yeah. I guess the only real surprise is that there's still so much work to be done. There's lots of great innovation happening behind the scenes at the moment to figure out measurement, brand safety, privacy, data activation and targeting. Yeah. So we haven't got all of the answers because the industry and ecosystem is still evolving, it's still maturing. But yeah, I genuinely expected the opportunity to really grow, but I guess my only surprise is again that we haven't addressed everything that needs to be addressed at the moment.
Interesting. And as you look at this year, for instance, as you said, the market's still maturing, a lot of changes happening. As you're looking at 2021, how do you see CTV this year and what are those changes that you're really seeing?
I think for me, there's two consumer trends happening at the moment. One is SVOD fatigue. I think DSP, the trade desk, recently put out some data saying that TV viewers in the UK didn't really want to spend any more than £20 on their streaming services. The second trend is consumers finding AVOD and FAST services, so that's ad-supported streaming content on their television. And as smart TV manufacturers make it easier for those TV viewers to discover those services, I think more and more people at home are going to engage with streaming via those ad-supported apps that are often referred to as AVOD or FAST services. Yeah. So two things, it's the SVOD fatigue and it's the discoverability of content on TVs driven by consumers looking for free streaming content, basically.
Yeah, and as you think about these consumer changes, do you feel as though agencies and advertisers fully understand the value of CTV and how that plays in their overall media strategy, or do you think there's still room for education?
That's a really good question. I think they absolutely understand the enormity of the opportunity. But there's two things playing out at the moment. You've got traditional TV advertisers that are new to the connected TV opportunity. So CTV, people say, well, there must be a lot of education, you know, you must be constantly educating brands on the value of CTV, you must be constantly educating agencies on the value. CTV for me isn't necessarily new, it's still advertising on the big screen in people's living rooms. Yeah. But when you take a step back and look at the delivery of those ads, the measurement of those ads, the targeting of those ads, that's what's very different from traditional TV advertising. So I think if you're a big TV advertiser today and you're dipping your toe into CTV, you're probably spending on broadcasters' BVOD services. That that still exists kind of outside of the programmatic ecosystem. I think in the UK we've seen some broadcasters like Channel 4 really innovating in that space and embracing programmatic, and I think we'll probably see other big broadcasters follow as buy-side interest around addressable TV really grows over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
But there are lots of digital advertisers and social advertisers that have been quick to realise the opportunity around advertising on TV for the first time and all the data points that they can now target. So from an agency perspective, I think they're acutely aware of the size of the opportunity, but they deal with different types of advertisers. Legacy traditional TV advertisers that are slightly slower to pull all of their money out of traditional and invest it in those free ad-supported apps because things like measurement, targeting, as I said earlier, there's still a lot of work going on in that space.
Yeah.
But if you're a traditional digital or social advertiser, then we're seeing those types of buyers really move quickly into the CTV sector, and the agencies are really helping them make that transition.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because definitely to what you were saying, the format of CTV really lends itself to complementing that traditional TV buy.
Yep.
But it is that additional data that makes it more common to how digital is being planned and bought. So have you seen, it sounds like you feel like there's an opportunity for those traditional TV buyers to work more closely with programmatic teams. Have you seen that happening, and do you know any kind of best-in-class examples you can share?
Well, I think if you look at WPP, one of the biggest agencies in the world, represent all different types of advertisers. They've been very proactive in investing within their own internal agencies within a division called Finecast. Finecast have been quick to offer brands a centre of excellence when it comes to CTV to help them make that transition from traditional to addressable channels. And I think we're seeing other agency groups now and other smaller companies, certainly from a European perspective, people like Lightbox, really go into the market and say, right, if you're an advertiser and you're looking to advertise on addressable TV for the first time, there are a multitude of different things you have to consider. You have to know how to target, you have to know how to manage privacy, you have to know how to manage where your ad is going to appear within a particular ad break. You know, is it the first ad slot? Are you going to be served back to back with your competitors? Can you manage competitive separation within the ad break? All issues that thus far have been quite a challenge in CTV advertising. So to answer your question, I think there is a lot of innovation, and that is being driven by the agencies and smaller independent companies that are being set up to really educate brands as they make that leap from traditional channels into addressable channels. Really
interesting. So more to come then.
Oh yeah,
more to come.
Absolutely.
So we've seen from our own business that ad-funded streaming services is really huge in the US. And in Europe, we're starting to see that market pick up. You referenced it earlier. So we've got players like Pluto TV, like our Samsung TV Plus. What's your thoughts on the growth potential of AVOD fast services and then the implications for agencies and advertisers?
Again, I think if you look at the free ad-supported services that are now available in the UK, they're growing very, very quickly. Two trends driving that growth. One has been the global lockdown. More people at home have discovered those services organically. And again, the other trend is around SVOD fatigue. I think Unruly recently had some research they put out in a TV report that says 80% of UK viewers now have access to streaming content via a multitude of different devices at home, but there's a growing appetite to engage in those services in a free way without paying for them. Again, back to that trade desk stat around the £20. No one really wants to pay any more than that. So the SVOD guys are still pretty dominant, the likes of Netflix, Amazon, but as more people discover the free services on their televisions, because the TV manufacturers are making it easier for consumers to discover the services, usage will increase. And then that's when it becomes a really compelling opportunity for advertisers, because the inventory is there, the data is there, it's measurable, it's quantifiable, and all of a sudden we're seeing interest from traditional TV advertisers and those display and social advertisers that I was referencing earlier that are moving into TV advertising for the very first time.
Really, really interesting. So Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. We are wrapping up, but before I let you go, I wanted to do one rapid round of quick fire questions.
Okay.
So you up for it?
Yeah, fire away.
So first, what show have you binged on this year?
Oh, good question. The Crown.
What show was your guilty pleasure that you didn't want anyone to know, but you're going to tell everyone on this live stream?
Oh, lots of YouTube rabbit holes about antiques and random old English country houses.
And then finally, what are your top 3 predictions for 2022?
From a CTV perspective, that would be a lot more research and development around measurement. How do we quantify reach across ad-supported streaming services? Privacy. What does privacy look like for consumers when they're streaming free shows and being targeted with advertising? And probably data activation, things like ACR data, and the importance of that in informing advertisers when they're targeting those audiences in ad-supported apps on connected televisions.
Yeah, super. I mean, if we can get those by next year, this industry is laughing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for watching today. Enjoy the rest of the content and hopefully we'll see you soon.